If you are dating, if you are saying to yourself, dating sucks, everybody in the dating pool sucks, they're always assholes, whatever your phrase is, if you are saying these things, just know that you're not wrong. And there's another way to think about it. There's another way to feel about it, another way to be about it. Welcome to Embodying You, a podcast of spiritual exploration where nothing is off limits. You'll hear raw, behind-the-scenes stories from people awakening to their soul's path and how they became the healers, mystics, and intuitives they are today. You'll also experience real-time intuitive sessions and healings where struggles transform into breakthroughs that you can bring into your own life. Along the way, you just might recognize yourself in the stories shared. This is Embodying You. Hello and welcome to the Embodying You podcast. I'm Tiffany Hart, and today we're going to talk about how I ended up with the partner that I have now. If you don't know about soul mates, well, you know about soulmates. Everyone has heard about soulmates, but there's also something called a soul complement. And this isn't actually a lesson in soulmates versus soul complement, but what I will say is what I have received many times, both for myself and for other people in the Akashic Records, which is it's our life script, our soul script for both this lifetime and every other lifetime that we have had, whether here on this planet or other places. Hey, we're going to get as weird as you want to get in here, okay? But regardless, it's all here. It's all related to your soul's essence. And there is a place, an energetic place you can go to in order to know about your life script. Okay. So whenever I have checked into this, we each, in each lifetime here on this planet anyway, have about 7 potential soulmates. Some of them we may not line up with for a couple of different reasons, but the way that I always see them is they're all perfectly placed so that if we decide that this one isn't for us, there will be another soulmate to come in that will be more aligned. The way that I see soulmates is they're very deep soul connections that are meant to be there for a while. This is the person that maybe you date for a couple of years, or maybe you're with for 10 years, or however you want to say it. Soulmates. Then there's the soul complement. And all I can do is tell my personal story about my journey. And the main thing that wants to come across here is that as we are dating, whether we have these soulmate partnerships or we're just dating in general, every single person we meet, every single person we date, even if we're only talking to briefly, it is already decided. Like, it is already in the cards, in your life script as a soul contract for that person to come to you. Why? To bring up certain feelings so that you will look at those feelings and hopefully heal them, or say, I don't want to feel that way again, so I'm not going to date that kind of person. For those of you who can see the video, my cat's tail is waving everywhere. We've had a temperature change here in Oklahoma, and he has been in and out, in and out, in and out of my room. And since I've started this podcast, which has not been very long, he has already been wanting in and wanting out and meowing very loudly. So we'll see what happens here. We will see what happens. Okay. So what I want to share today is my personal journey with the soulmate to finding my soul complement. Now, I'm actually not going to spend very much time on my history from, say, my teenage years to just before my 40s. But what I will say, what I've received in my records, is that I spent time with 3 different soulmates. There was the boyfriend I had from 17 to 21 that we were soulmates in the way that of the soul lessons we were meant to give together, that we were meant to get together. ways that we shifted and we changed as a result of being together. And then there was my second long-term relationship, which basically lasted for all of my 20s, which was my first husband. And we were together for basically 10 years, 9 to 10 years, all through my 20s. And then there was my 30s, which was my third soulmate, my third partner that was meant to come in. And we were together for about 8 years throughout my 30s. And each one of these people were meant to be in my life long-term and me in their life long-term. And in fact, my two husbands, I have one child with each of them. So there is still a soul contract continuing in the ways that we choose to show up with one another and the ways that we choose to heal our relationships. And some of our past relationships can feel easy. Some of them can feel challenging, and some of them bring other people into the mix and give us other opportunities to look at how we are feeling in order to grow, shift, and change. Because if I haven't said this yet, the whole reason we incarnate on this planet is to come back to ourselves, to have gone through the soul experience and had these things happen in our lives, whether it's I don't know if you've heard the phrase a big T trauma or a little T trauma. We all can tell the difference between that, right? A big T trauma might be abuse. A little T trauma might be somebody saying something rude to you on the playground one time, but it's still stuck with you. And if we haven't learned to process it, it does stick in the body and it covers up who we really are. It keeps us from being fully ourselves in relationships. It causes us to hide a part of ourselves. Just like in the last podcast episode with Mika, my client and friend, we were talking about that, talking about someone in her life who said something about her singing voice one day, and it affected her for 20 years. And then the podcast before that, where I'm talking about my voice, it was the same thing. Based on a conversation we had, I felt inspired to talk about the childhood traumas that I had, which were both, there were two of the big traumas were one time, one phrase said from two people that really meant a lot to me in order to give me that trauma to go through life as a soul lesson, right? To feel like I don't have a voice, to feel like my voice isn't important, to feel like I don't have a good singing voice, to go on this trajectory of healing it. And as crazy as it sounds, because some of us have these soul missions to help others. But the thing is, even if you're not helping people publicly like this on Instagram or in a podcast or any number of ways, it doesn't mean that your soul lessons, the big T and little t traumas that you have had, aren't for you to help others with. So everything that happens in our lives, we are all part of the whole and we are all connected. So think about conversations that you've had with people where you get to share with them something that happened to you and it ends up helping them. And so this is what the soul journey is about. It's about helping one another. And it's also about uncovering the parts of us that are not us based on our past programming. And by past programming, I mean, as a kid, the different ways that we were taught we had to be accepted into the family. So one of the things that I'm going to talk about on my way to my soul complement partner that I'm with now is codependency. Our society is so codependent. And what's funny is whenever I bring it, it almost always comes up with clients and sessions. And every time I say it, I don't know that I've had one person yet who hasn't known what wants to be said, not expanded, the exaggerated version of codependency, which is the person that can't do anything by herself, can't make any decisions by herself, absolutely cannot live by herself, absolutely cannot be single, right? Like that would be more of an extreme version. But there are very, very subtle ways that we can be codependent on another person. And not even realize that it's not serving us. And so a quick example of this is in pretty much every relationship I've ever had, when we've lived together and I've gotten home from work, I have asked them what they want to do. And then inevitably, what my past has been, we would get into a habit of maybe having a drink and watching a show, or maybe just watching a show, maybe not even having a drink. But it was almost always TV watching, which was also what I did all through my childhood. And it wasn't until, and in my last marriage, we started to have issues that I started to say, wait a minute, what do I want to do tonight? I don't want to watch a show and have a drink or whatever it is, right? What do I want to do? And that's when I realized, oh my gosh, when is the last time that I've asked myself what I want to do tonight? And it might be sit down and have a drink and watch a show. Or it might be, I want to work on this piece of furniture that I'm in the middle of redoing. Or it might be, I want to go clean the closet. Or it might be, I want to go to a coffee shop by myself and read a book. Who knows? Who knows? But these are the subtle ways that we don't even realize until we do that we are codependent. Okay, so let me see where the conversation wants to go, because this is actually taking a different turn than I thought it was going to take, but it's all perfect. I always tune in to what wants to be said for those who are listening, no matter when you're listening. Let's see here. All right, so let's get into my dating experience right before I met my partner. Now, if you are dating, if you are saying to yourself, dating sucks, everybody in the dating pool sucks, they're always assholes, whatever your phrase is, if you are saying these things, just know that you're not wrong. And there's another way to think about it. There's another way to feel about it, another way to be about it. So by way of example, the summer before I met my boyfriend. No, actually, the story's wanting to go back to when I first started getting on the dating apps. So this was about a year before I met my boyfriend. I had been happily single for 2 years. As a woman, as a girl who hadn't been single for more than maybe 2 weeks since she turned 14, maybe even 13. I mean, I was so codependent and that I always had someone. And so going from that to after my last divorce, I was just like, I'm working on me. I don't know what hit me, but something said, no, I'm working on me. And so as a result of just the way that relationship ended and just where my soul was and where my soul journey was, I just knew I had to work on me. There was no other option, because I knew that I would be in a similar relationship if I didn't. Now, that's not to say that so much of that relationship wasn't beautiful, because it really was. It really was. We got along well. We did a lot of things together, and it was a very copacetic relationship. We had a lot of similarities, things like that. But the truth is, our time was up. And I didn't want to admit it. And then things happened in order to put it in my face. This relationship is done. There's nothing more that either one of you can get from being together. Okay. So I just want to say that. So I believe it ended the way that it ended because I was meant to really take a deep look inside. So for 2 years, I didn't want to date. I didn't even want to think about dating. I was not interested. I was happily single. I really was. Not that I didn't find guys attractive, but I was not interested. Can I say that enough times? And I think I say that because I was so surprised that I just let go of it all. During that time, I worked on codependency. I was in CODA, which is Codependence Anonymous, for a while. Then I went into a year-long yoga mentorship with someone whose name back then was Allie the Journey Junkie on YouTube. Now I think she has it as Allie Van Fossen. I forget. But so I went on that journey with her for a year. And then I went to be magnetic for a year, just working on myself and doing reprogramming and figuring out so much about myself internally. It was in that time that I learned about human design, and I dove in so deep. Also because of the different things that were going on in that relationship, I learned about the Enneagram. I learned about love languages. I learned all these things to really show me, to really deprogram that we are all the same, and we all need the same things to feel loved, that we all should act the same way. If a girlfriend of mine is really successful in business, I would say to myself, well, why can't I do that? Why can't I do it the way she does it? And all of those things led me to, oh, this is why we're different. So it's the same thing in relationships, right? There's this understanding that we're all different. And then during that time, I was also learning that everything is a mirror. Everything is a mirror. Everything that I see outside of myself, whether I like it or I do not like it, is reflecting something back to me. So for example, this friend, and I think I talk about this in my second episode of this podcast, but this friend, I saw her as a very successful woman financially, and she was. And she had other things about her too that I really admired. I admired her creativity and the way that she would design her home and get into projects and things like that. There was a lot that I admired about her. And I would try to compare myself to her and be like, oh, why can't I do that? Why can't I do that? But then I learned, oh, she's this Enneagram number and I'm this one. Then when I learned human design, it helped me even more because I said, oh, okay, she's a projector and I'm a manifesting generator, or, just all these things, right? When it's not to separate ourselves from others, but it's to learn we actually are not all meant to be the same, unlike what we're taught in school, right? Or there are other places we're taught this also, but we are not all meant to be the same. And so there are so many ways that we can learn that we're not all meant to be the same, while it's also important. I may be getting on a tangent, but that's okay. While also remembering that it's important to not put ourselves in a box, or to not say to ourselves, oh, you are a manifesting generator, so you are this way, and this is just how you're going to be. Or saying you're a projector, so you can't work. I've heard someone say that, and he lives by it, even though he's always broke. He says, I'm a projector and I'm not supposed to work. Well, that's not true. That's not true. That's not true. If you ever are curious, there are ways for projectors to work and be able to rest a lot too. But anyway, that would definitely be a segue, and we don't want to go there because this is about soul complement and soul relationships, soul mate relationships, okay? So this story is important because what I'm hearing is that you need to know that according to my Akashic records, I've had these 3 soulmate relationships. And even once I met my soul complement, if I hadn't decided to stay with him for any reason, I would have had other opportunities for other meaningful relationships after that. So just know this, nothing is scarce. Soulmate's not scarce. You haven't missed the one or anything like that. Okay, so let's just put that out there. All right, so we're not all the same. I'm learning again about myself. I'm learning about codependency. I'm learning that everything that I feel, whether they've made me feel good, and I'm just hiding that part of that's what I was saying. So about this girlfriend of mine, when I would see all these great things about her and I would say, oh, I wish I could do that. Oh, I wish I could do that. I was, in a sense, putting her on a pedestal like, oh, I can't do that. But that's not true. That's not true. I was seeing in her what was within me, but had been covered up. In fact, I'm still uncovering the successful businesswoman, and I'm still learning, oh, you really do these things to have a successful business. Oh, you mean it's just this simple, right? Because we tend to make things a lot harder than they are when it's something that we have stuffed away in our shadow, or when we've told ourselves, I cannot achieve, I cannot be as I want to be because of my past trauma. Or a big story for me was that none of my family's entrepreneurs. Most of my family stayed in the same job until they retired and they were miserable. And that has been my story. Like, oh, this is why I can't be successful in business. And I held on to that story, damn it. But it was just me needing to uncover. Okay. So then the same thing, if there's something that we do not like in someone else, it is showing us something within ourselves. Okay. So this is where I'm going to get into the couple of men that I dated right before I met the partner that I'm with now. So in April, I met my partner in late August, maybe early September. So what is that? 4 months before, 4 or 5 months before I meet someone, we hang out for a weekend, and I know it's not going to be anything serious. Like I wasn't even thinking in that way, but the way that it ended up working out with us after we parted ways. And again, this is someone who travels the world, and he travels alone. And I knew it wasn't going to be anything. And in fact, when we were parting from one another, I remember him saying like, hey, how about I give you a call? And I was kind of like, I mean, you can or you can't. I mean, I really liked him. I thought it was cool. And we had such a good time together telling crazy ass stories to one another, especially him with his travels all around the world. But, well, I can't say that. I have some pretty cool stories. But it was one of those things where as we were saying goodbye, I really felt very neutral about it. Like, I've loved our time together, and of course I'd love to chat, but it's okay if we don't. However, the following weeks after that, and not being able to talk with him when I wanted to, or messaging him and having him maybe or maybe not get back to me, and then when he would respond, getting responses that I felt like weren't very thorough is a word that wants to come up. Like, I would have said this and then I don't get much back from him. When in person, he was very chatty and we would chat a lot. Like, there was a lot of good conversation. And I guess I was wanting conversation. I was craving that, but he wasn't able to give it to me. Ooh, and it triggered the shit out of me. I remember one day sitting outside on my back porch and just honestly crying, going, why am I feeling this way? What is happening? I felt so nervous. I couldn't keep my mind off of him, not for long anyway. It would constantly go back. And even though I was telling myself he may not be in Wi-Fi, he may not do this or may not do that, it was all over me. But luckily, I had done a lot of codependency work already. I had done a lot of diving into the subtleties of codependency. Okay, so not like the huge big things, but the subtleties. And so I at least knew enough then to not be messaging him a lot, to not be putting my feelings off on him, to not be trying to reach out to him just to get a response. Because that's something that we can do too in codependency. So we could have messaged someone, they're not getting back to us, and we get triggered by it. And so we do a reach out to try to get them to respond. That's a really fucking sneaky one. That's a really sneaky one. I spent a lot of time really examining my underlying motives behind everything I was doing. And sometimes it was hard for me to see, and sometimes I didn't see it until afterwards. Because think about this. If you're dating and you message someone and then you feel anxiety about whether or not they get back to you, and if you have a problem with how quickly they do or don't get back to you, then there's something underlying that. Any feelings you feel in your body that are anything other than neutral are showing you something to be released, energy to be released. So whenever I was feeling this way with this guy, I was releasing emotions as I went. I was releasing on how I felt, but man, it would come up super fucking strong. So that ended up ending. I just felt the energy go. Honestly, I think I sent a message to him and he gave me a response, and whatever his response was, I was like, okay, I'm good now. I'm good. And I really was. I just let it go. Then the next guy came in. I met him at a park. I believe I met him in June, if I remember right. No, probably May. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It doesn't truly matter. But I met him very quickly afterwards. That is what you need to know. I met him very quickly afterwards. So I met that man in April. And this man, I believe I met him just, maybe a little over a month later. And there's so many synchronicities. Here's what I want to say. both of these men just happen to be Hispanic when, for whatever the reason is, I've mostly dated white men. Not all of them have been white, but I knew this time around with a partner, I had had visions before, and I had a friend who's very intuitive get a vision of me walking in with a man who looked a certain way, and he had dark hair and a dark beard and brown eyes. And I just was floored when she told me this, because this is exactly the kind of look who I actually always thought I would be with. But my two husbands, they did not look like that. My first boyfriend did, but the two husbands, they did not. And I remember this time saying, okay, she gave me confirmation of what I already knew about this person's appearance, so I'm going to hold out for that appearance, right? So both of these men, they were both Hispanic, and they both had, all that. And so that matters because of the connection here. So then the second guy, who again was Hispanic, I'm at a park, and that's where I meet him. And as we're talking, so many synchronicities come up. And we do end up dating for 6 weeks. Spoiler alert. We dated for 6 weeks. So I want to talk about some of the synchronicities here, because synchronicities can also help point the way. These were crazy in my face synchronicities, but as we kept dating, here are some synchronicities that I realized between the two of these men. They both were avid bicyclers. One of them travels the world on a bicycle. I mean, he does RV part of the time, but he will travel a whole coastline, or he'll go to a different country with only his bicycle, and he will literally bicycle. Okay. Not like a motorbike. Okay. The second man that I met at the park that told me, pay attention, told me that he loves to bicycle, and he bikes all around the city. And he said he'll go 50 miles sometimes on his bicycle. So I saw that synchronicity, and I said, okay. Then as the second guy and I were dating, he tells me about a car accident that he got in where he almost died. And he told me of a certain bone that he broke, and I believe it was his right leg. I would honestly have to go back to the messages to see. But here's what ended up happening. When he told me this, I said, wait a minute. So I go back to the first guy, and I end up messaging him actually to say, is this accurate? And he confirmed yes. So both of these men had been in car accidents that almost killed them, and both of them broke the exact same bone in the leg. Both of them. There were other synchronicities too. There's more to the story about these two when I got in the Akashic Records, but that's for another time. If you are interested in knowing what was the deeper story between the synchronicities between these men, and why did they both have these things happen? Because I also received other information too about different things that they had both done in this lifetime that they didn't realize they had done. So for me, it was a synchronicity. It was pay attention. Well, so remember with the first guy, I was feeling so anxious. So with the second guy that I started dating, oh my God. So it was during this time that I really started realizing, holy shit, I am anxiously attached, and he is avoidantly attached. And he was extremely avoidantly attached. It was total textbook, but I didn't know that then. I just knew that I was so triggered during my time of dating him. I would feel so lonely. I would have these periods of, even though I'd been happily single for years, just feeling so lonely and waiting for him to message me. But the thing is he would give me breadcrumbs. He would message me every morning and every evening. But then in between, it was very inconsistent. Did I get a lot of activity from him? Did I not? Was he going to ask me out? Was he not? And this is something that, as he and I were dating, there was one night in particular where I was at a park, one of my favorite parks around here. It's called Bluff Creek. I was sitting in the back on this concrete area, looking out at the woods. It was dusk. The fireflies were out. I believe I had seen deer this evening. I really can't remember. Deer are a super powerful spirit animal for me. But I just remember this feeling of, I'm at a park I love at dusk. The fireflies are out. I know the deer are around, and I'm so fucking sad and lonely. And I start messaging these two friends in a group message, and I'm crying, and I'm telling them I feel so lonely and I don't understand why. And I knew that part of it had to do with this guy, because we'd been dating for however long, and I'd only seen him maybe once or twice. And when he knew I could not meet up, he would ask me to meet up, right? And when I could meet up, he would not. And so it was this mind fuck, a total mind fuck. And I was falling for it, and I was anxious, but I was releasing emotions as I went. I'm so glad I knew how to release emotions. So that night when I was feeling so lonely, it dawned on me, oh my God, I can do a session on myself. So I come back to the house and I do a session on myself. I don't remember how long it was, to be honest with you. It might have been 30 minutes, might have been an hour, might have been 2 hours. I really don't know. But I remember specifically 2 emotions that came up as I blind tested. Because back then, the only way that I did it was within this app that I have called Body Code. So they have emotion code, body code, belief code. And back then, I was just using emotion code and body code to find how I was like, to ask my subconscious, what is trapped here? What is trapped here? And then I would blind test because I wouldn't want my mind to get involved with, oh yeah, that's the emotion. I know for sure that's the emotion. I wanted my subconscious to lead me. And by the way, as a side note, if this sounds interesting to you, number one, I do these sessions. I do these sessions with clients. So you can come into a session, but also if you look into it and you are interested in becoming certified yourself, I will just put this right here that I have an affiliate link. And so I will make a note to put that link in the show notes so that if you decide, yes, I want to be trained to release emotions myself, which honestly is really, really cool and amazing, please, 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 if you feel inclined, use my affiliate link. It's a pretty decent kickback, but I have used this for years and years and years now, and it's super, super powerful that I use with my clients, and I infuse intuition, and I'm asking their highest selves for help, and I go in and I do other healing too. So I now don't do just that, but that was how I began, and it's super powerful. You link right in with your subconscious, and this is also something that I teach within my mentorship. I don't teach them how to use the app per se, but I teach them how to use their body to muscle test, to ask their subconscious questions, to ask them what there is to be released and like what foods are good for them, different things like that. So I teach clients to do this and teach them specific to them ways to clear energy for themselves. So just to say that there's so many options for you, whether I'm the person for you or whether someone else is, it really doesn't matter. I think just as long as people are clearing trapped emotions, that's the key. That's the key. That's the thing. Okay. So I come home and I'm using this body code app. And I'm blind testing. And I remember specifically one of the emotions that came up was lonely. And I was surprised because I felt like so often it's never the exact emotion I think that's going to come up and out, right? And our mind loves to know, what are we releasing? What are we releasing? And it's helped me now trust when I'm not on the app. It has helped me trust that things are faux show being released because, well, I've just had so much experience with muscle testing and seeing it through this app. And so lonely came up. Then forlorn came up. And forlorn, the way that I remember the definition, because I also have definitions for the emotions so you can connect more with what exactly is happening. Why is this emotion of terror coming up, for example? That doesn't make sense. But then you read the description and you realize, oh, okay, I get it now. All right, so with forlorn, it's lonely by way of abandonment. So think about how I was feeling with this guy. I was feeling abandoned. Like, what the fuck, dude? You're the one who keeps pursuing me. I've already tried to tell you twice that this isn't going to work out. Our communication's too different. Each time he'd pull me back in with these big showings of affection, right? I remember one morning when we'd only met each other once, he was asking me if I wanted to come over to make pancakes with his daughters. I'm going, I've only known you for 3 weeks, but he was doing these big expressions. And then one of the times that I messaged him and said, I think this was the first time that I messaged him and said, hey, this just isn't going to work. And I believe we'd been dating for maybe 2 weeks. Must have been into June that I met him because it was July 4th, the next morning that he got back to me. And he said, hey, so much has been going on around here. I'm so sorry. If you will just allow me to, like, let's meet up for coffee or something. Even if you still don't want to date, that's fine. I just want to talk. And when we met up, of course, he's telling me all these things. He's being vulnerable, and he's telling me about his family, and he's telling me about this and that and what's been happening and how he's been feeling, right? The things that I want, especially as someone who wants depth in relationships. I want connection. I want true commitment, and I'm not fucking afraid to say it, right? Then I was, now I'm not. Like, give me all of it. Give me all of you. Okay. I'm getting passionate over here because I believe that all of us deserve nothing less, but not in the way that we are demanding it, but in the way that our energy says, yes, that is what my soul desires. So getting back to, where was I at in the story, actually? I got on a little passion rant. Okay, so I'm telling him I don't think we're a match. And on 4th of July, we end up going out for coffee, and he's telling me all these things and really opening up. And then we still want to be able to hang out together. So then, just to have a place to go walking around, we go into a furniture store, and it's a really cool furniture store. And I absolutely love decor and furniture and all that. And so, we just decide to take our coffees and just go walking around. And then again, it's 4th of July. And so we just end up spending the entire day together. And then that evening end up going to Hefner Lake and watching the fireworks over the water together. And when you go to Hefner Lake, this includes a sunset, right? So it was a whole beautiful day. And he was feeling sad that evening that he didn't have his daughter in order to do fireworks. And he had even spoken with her, and had even asked me, would you be okay if maybe I checked to see if I could bring my daughter? So again, he did not end up, and I ended up telling him, actually, no, if you do that, I don't want to. It's too early. But still, do you see what his avoidant attachment was doing when I was, in quotes, abandoning him, right? Saying, oh, no, this isn't enough for me. His wounding came up and drew me back in because it was a match to my wounding. But the point is during this whole relationship, I was triggered as fuck. And let me tell you this too. We stopped dating after 6 weeks. This time, I didn't have to say anything. You know what happened? After 6 weeks of dating, I invited him over to spend the night, not to sleep together, but to sleep together, to cuddle and sleep together. And I told him that up front too. This is not that. And we hadn't even done that, right? I mean, we would have had to have dated, actually seen each other to really even do anything like that anyway. But so he decides to come over, and we lay down, and I think, okay, he's going to kiss me, at least kiss me goodnight. But he lays down and he gets all comfy, like he's going to go to sleep. And I asked him, are you going to kiss me? And he says, oh, yeah. So he kisses me and falls asleep while he's kissing me. And thank God, I did know a little bit about attachment theory then, about avoidant attachment. And I don't know if I fully realized it right then. I know that it didn't really offend me. In the past, I think I would have cried, honestly. But what I realized is that he was so avoidant that this potential intimacy happening between the two of us shut his nervous system down. Just boom, shut him down. And I didn't message him the next day or the next day, and he didn't message me either. But what I will tell you, what will I tell you? Actually, I'm going to go on to the next story. They're showing me something, my guides, but that part of the story may come in here in a little bit. So then there's the third guy I dated that summer. It starts to switch, meaning the ethnicity changed, because a lot of things happened in 3 for me. So the summer before I met these 2 Hispanic men, there was another Hispanic man. Oh, I'm going to say his name because there's no way, he probably doesn't even remember my name, but his name was Jose. Oh my gosh. Saw him in an airport. He was so hot. And he cracked me open to dating because he actually liked me. He ended up sitting right across from me on the airplane. And I thought, oh my gosh, what are the chances? This guy's so good looking. And here I am, my first time going to Hawaii, my first time on a solo trip. And I have both of my kids with me. And about, I don't know, the last hour of this 3-hour flight, this super hot guy sitting next to me or across the aisle from me, we start talking and we talk the entire flight. And then after that, he asked for my number and he's telling me he would love to be able to hang out. And I'm like, I got my kids right here. So no, but let's talk later. And then it ends up that he's moving to Texas, which isn't very far from where I live. And so that did not end up being anything. He was there to crack me open, but there was my first Hispanic man, right? So I had 3 Hispanic men in a row. Boom, boom, boom. So now we're going to switch to the C names, because it's really not about them being white or Native American or anything like that. It's about the C names. So enters the C names. There are 3 C names that gave me, when you start paying attention to the synchronicities and you stop viewing things as coincidences, you'll see these things start to happen to you. Okay. And it's just fun because what it does for me is it lets me know, oh, all of this really did happen on purpose. Okay. The C name. It was so cool when I met this first C name because he was the friend of someone who I was friends with in high school and the brother. He was the brother of someone who I always thought was really cool in high school. And then after high school, his brother and I used to hang out sometimes. And as a matter of fact, he almost did photography for my first wedding. So in my early 20s. And his friend at his photography studio did my makeup for my first wedding, right? So it was this kind of full circle moment of a friend from high school and after high school that I kept up with on Facebook. And so I loved his brother so much that I automatically was like, dude, I love you, And I did say that to him, but not in like I love you as a partner, but in oh my gosh, I just love you. And the relationship changed because in between the time that I dated the second man that I was talking about who fell asleep while we were kissing, I laugh about it, but I'm sending him so much love, so much love. Okay. So in between the time of that guy and the first C name, I started reading about anxious attachment. I was like, oh, hell no. This is not fun. I do not like feeling this way. And as I was reading it was when I met the first C name. So I had already set some standards. I said, I need a guy who is emotionally available. I need a guy who likes to talk about things. And I need a guy who wants to explore topics with me because I love to explore topics and things that I'm learning with people. Love it. I have so many voice messages that I need to get back to because I have different people where we're exploring different things together. And so this is what I got with him. We were talking all the time. It was so much fun. We were diving into subjects. He would ask me out. We would go out. We would have fun. It was great. It was great. It was great. And during that time of dating him, I was reading about anxious attachment and telling him what I was learning. And we were both exploring anxious and avoidant attachment. Okay. That's really all that wants to be said about that particular relationship, but it also lasted 6 weeks. Again, synchronicity, call it what you want. It lasted about 6 weeks and I knew it was over. I had already been feeling like something had shifted. Something had shifted. And in our messages, I think it might've been his, might've been mine, but I just happened to notice that one of the messages was sent at 9:20. Well, the same thing happened with the guy before him that I dated. Right before the end, I saw a message that was 9:20 and I thought, oh shit, here it comes. Now, why would that stand out for me? It stands out for me because when I had just decided that my last marriage was not going to work and we had talked about divorce, it was right after that I was sitting in the car and I must have been getting 9:20. I had just started paying attention to numbers. And this was in 2021, I believe. And I just started paying attention to numbers. And I must have been seeing 9:20 because when I was about to get out of the car, I saw that it was 9:20. And I remember thinking, what does 9:20 mean? And I looked it up And basically it had to do with the ending of relationships. And I took it as confirmation of, yes, you're doing the right thing. Like, this relationship isn't meant to continue. Well, then I go into the DMV, which was where I was going into to get my real ID. And when I go in and I'm at the counter paying, and I hear a woman repeat 3 times to someone, that'll be $9.20. She said, it'll be $9.20. The person said, what? She said, $9.20. And the person said, okay, I'm sorry, what? $9.20. Okay, universe. Okay, God, I gotcha. $9.20. And so back then it was the ending of relationships is what it meant to me. So again, when I saw that message come up with the second guy I dated, I was like, oh shit, here we go. And then with this first C name, when I saw a message come through at 9:20, it hit me. Now, I do want to say at some point that number shifted to me. It shifted to the end of a cycle of how I am being in relationships is what it shifted to. I get 9:20 all the time now, and even with my current partner, but it means something different. So remember that too. Your signs, your synchronicities, all those things, the meaning that you assign to them, because the universe is always talking to you. So it's about the meaning you assign to it. So the 9:20 has shifted in its meaning for me. But back then it was very, very meaningful. So when that came through, I knew, I was like, oh, okay, this guy and I, we're over it. Not too long after that, I meet someone who I'm not romantically interested in, but he has a C name. And it didn't totally stand out to me until I met on a dating app, Match.com, my current partner. He is the third C name. Okay. So what happened, and this is something that he has said he's open with talking about on the podcast whenever he comes on here, because he will come on here. My boyfriend, his name is Clayton. I want to call him my man friend, like boyfriend. I'm 44 years old. I have to be honest. I don't really like calling him boyfriend, but I haven't found a better way. Partner could mean anything, could be business partner. I don't know. So anyway, the third C name comes along. So what happened is, I hope I'm not being confusing with this, but I don't want to just like say people's names, right? But so there's the 3 C names. So like I said, there's the first guy that I dated for 6 weeks. Then the second person was a friend. And then very shortly after meeting the second C name was when I met Clayton. And I met them within a week of each other. And when I go have dinner and hang out with the middle C name, he tells me that he had, I don't know if he called himself an alcoholic, but he said that he had trouble with alcohol. He had a breathalyzer in his car. And so now he only has 1 drink when he's out, and then he doesn't drink after that so that he can pass his breathalyzer. So, and he went to jail and like almost stayed in jail this last time. It had so many DUIs. And so that stood out to me. And he very, very quickly told me like, hey, I want you to know this about me. So then it was, I think days later that I met my boyfriend online, and we started chatting a little bit one day. Then the very next day he says to me, I want you to know that I'm an alcoholic, but I don't drink anymore. And I haven't for a while. And the thing is, before I met him, it had been a hard no to be with anyone with addiction. Those of you who have had addiction in your childhood or in any of your relationships, you may know what I mean, having that hard line in the sand when it comes to addiction. Okay. And there had been guys that I've been interested in on the apps, and they also told me very quickly. And I said, I'm so sorry, just because of my previous experience with this. Like I have made the decision that I will not be with someone, even if they're in recovery. I'm sorry. And that was just it. But with this person, because of the third C name, because of the guy before with the C name just telling me that he was an alcoholic, but that he was in recovery, and then this guy telling me I'm an alcoholic, but I'm in recovery, it's like, wait a minute. So I sat with intuition, and intuition said, I want to really kind of channel what was said. Don't you think that everyone is equal? Don't you think that everyone is equal? And that really, really stood out to me, because this is something that I would say all the time by this point. It's just 2 years ago. So by this point, I was already really looking at this, at how, yes, we're all very important. Our soul mission is important, and we are all equal, but that does not mean better than, does not mean that one of us is better than. So when I met my boyfriend now, and he said that, and they said, well, don't you believe that everyone is equal? And I honestly don't remember everything that was said, but it was a moment of just have fun. I had no idea he was my soul complement, but I just decided to just give it a chance and see. And surprising to me, this is actually where the story wants to end today, because I really want him to be able to be here to also tell his side of the story. I really want to talk about the way we came together and the different thoughts we had about one another and the different things that were going on with us that allowed us to stay together. A couple of examples do want to come in. Another thing on the apps, on the dating app, when it would say that they were separated or anything like that, again, it was a hard no. It was, you need to be divorced. Somehow I was blinded to the fact that it said he was separated. And there were a few other things too, but I can't remember them right now. But it was just one of those things where there were all these things showing me that, no, give this guy a chance. Give this guy a chance. And there was, luckily by that point, I had heard about the 7 soulmates. And I also believe that if this soulmate, like even my partner that I have now, who is my soul complement, which is a different level than a soulmate on the soul growth level, holy shit. I mean, he and I have been put in each other's lives to upgrade very quickly together. Should each of us decide to stay in this, right? So here's what I want to say. Not that soulmate relationships are always easy, right? But soul complement relationships will show you yourself in ways that you have never seen yourself, but in the other person, because that's how the universe works. We mostly see something in them, but we feel something inside, and we are meant to not blame them for how we feel. We are instead meant to look inside and clear those emotions and heal how we feel inside, because it is our soul mission is so important. And I don't mean the way that you serve others. I mean what your soul wants to experience in this lifetime, whatever it is, the hard times, the good times, all of it, the trips you take, the hobbies you have. Your soul wants to experience all of it. And so life is the soul experiment, is what the soul wants to have the lesson in, is what the soul wants to, well, what just came in is reap the rewards of the life that you're in right now. And so I will close by saying, if you have any questions, please DM me. Okay, please DM me. Let me know if there's something you want me to talk more about, something that did or didn't make sense. When I am channeling, which was what I was doing most of the time here, whatever stories wanted to come through me, I find that at the end of it, it feels like it made no sense. And then I go back and listen to it and I realize, oh, okay, that made sense. I get it. So that is how I'm feeling right now. Like it made no sense, but if you would just message me if you do have questions, if it doesn't make sense. And I can even do another podcast episode exploring a single topic within this, whatever you want. But I will have my partner, Clayton, my soul complement partner, on the podcast, because it is so important to talk about the way we came together. I was already reading the Akashic records and channeling different things like fairies and also trees, which was a real surprise to me, right? I mean, fairies were a surprise to me. Let's be real about it. But just, all of these things were becoming truths within me. And about the 2 Hispanic men that I dated pretty close together, the information I received about them in the Akashic records was just crazy, amazing. And I don't even know what to say about it, because I would need another podcast episode to explain it. I will say these words. When we get to a certain point in our ascension journey, our soul can split. And that's what I learned about these 2 men in the Akashic records, is that they had been one soul and they'd gotten to a certain frequency where they then got to make the decision. God allowed them the choice. Do you want to split and have 2 more lifetimes as humans? So yes, you can have souls split. that are living in this lifetime. And I not only knew this to be truth within my records, but then I had a mentor who randomly within one of her courses talked about soul splitting. And I'm going, literally never heard anyone else talk about this, but I received it in my records about these two men. So thank you to those two men for also giving me that information. But so with this partner, I was very woo by this point and not wanting to hide any part of myself. I was done hiding. I was done doing things so that others will accept me. I'm not saying that I am done with the journey of letting go of what others think about me, but it's this journey of, I was ready in the beginning of this relationship to say, I'm going to be all of me. And if you do not accept that, that's perfectly fine. Someone else will. Someone else will. And he was not on the woo side, but he was open. He was open. And even though he still doesn't understand some of the shit that comes out of my mouth, even though he still doesn't live in this world that I live in, and we don't currently live together, he's always open. And as I shift, he shifts. And even when we have moments where I'm starting to feel the energetic disconnection, because that is, once you really uncover enough trauma and really get more sensitive about your energy, you can definitely recognize energetic disconnection. And all we have to do is sit down and eye gaze for 5 or 10 minutes, or just sit together in meditation, or just sit together holding hands talking. And all of a sudden, boom, I feel us line up again. It's the craziest thing. But what I want to say is, I was looking for perfection in the man that I wanted as my next long-term partner. I wanted him to be woo like me. I wanted him to eat completely organic and have an amazing relationship with food. I wanted him to have an amazing relationship with his body and work out all the time and, be fit. I wanted him to know inner child work and shadow work. I wanted all of these things in my next partner. I wanted him to, oh my gosh, so many things. Basically, I wanted him to be completely perfect, so that I didn't have to see myself and see the ways that I was still striving for perfection within myself, the ways that I still wasn't accepting myself, right? So my current partner, besides also on my list of manifesting my partner, my ego list, my mind list said, nobody that's an addict. No, thank you. He's an addict, right? He's been in recovery, but he was an addict and he almost died because of it. So he can talk about that too. He did. He almost died. And that was his life-changing moment of, I drink or I die. There are no two ways about it. Ugh, I cannot wait for you to hear our story. Okay, but I do need to stop this. We've got dinner in the oven. I'm sure my son by now is going, where is she at? Because he's a hungry teenager. He's 15 right now at the time that I'm recording this. Thank you all so much for listening. If you would, please rate this podcast. If you're really feeling very, very kind, please review the podcast if it resonated with you. If you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to send me a DM on Instagram. My Instagram handle is in the show notes. If you need it out loud, it is at embodyingwholeness.love on Instagram. And my website, if you want to explore sessions or explore anything else, is embodyingwholeness.love. So both my website and my Instagram are the same. I'm sending you so much love, compassion, tenderness, and joy. One last thing's wanting to come in. This has been coming in so strong. And I won't go on and on about it. I promise. At least I'm telling my guides, please don't keep going on and on about it. But it is January 23rd of 2026 right now, as I'm recording this. It will go out next week, but the time actually doesn't matter. The energy of the month just wanted to be said. It's January of 2026. And if there's one, there are two things you're going to be asked to do this year, that if you pay attention to these and you work towards these things, you're going to have a much easier time than the rest of the world in 2026. Release fear. Sounds easier said than done. release fear, and embrace joy. Both of them, when you really start diving into these subtleties of fear and joy, are actually, what do I want to say? Very hard to master. We have been taught throughout our lives and our societies in such subtle ways to be very fearful, to not try new things. New things are dangerous. People are dangerous. The world is dangerous. This person walking down the street is dangerous. It's dangerous to travel by yourself. It's dangerous as a woman to go for a walk in the woods. Danger, danger, danger. We have been very much fed from the very beginning of our lives fear. There are reasons behind that I'm sure you know, and we can talk about another podcast episode, but the other one is joy. When you are triggered, for instance, by a child who you feel like won't take things seriously, you are the one triggered. So take a moment to examine that. I had to do this for myself. My triggers about seeing a child enjoy, like say when they're brushing their teeth and they're dancing while they're brushing their teeth, and my inner serious person is going, hey, don't brush your teeth, or don't dance while you brush your teeth. You need to be serious about this. We've got to go to bed. Oh my gosh. That may seem like a little something, but it was a huge trigger for me for a very long time until I realized, holy shit, what's triggering me actually is her joy. And so those are the two biggest things you can do for yourself in 2026. Again, if you resonate with me and you resonate with my work, please come in, book a session. I have so many different options for you to work with. I do have free workshops. And of course, there's this podcast here for free. I also have a 5-minute Akashic Records reading that is $25 if you aren't sure you want to jump in, but you just want to taste. And you'll be surprised what you can get in 5 minutes from your Akashic Records. I mean, the messages I get back from people are incredible. And then, of course, there are sessions with me, one-on-one sessions where we, within minutes, and I mean this, within minutes, I will intuitively get to the root of what is actually happening with whatever it is that you come to me for, whether it's that you're wanting to start up a new business and you're having trouble and you're feeling blocked, or you're having a lot of issues in your relationship, whatever it is, we can very easily get to the root of it and begin working on clearing energy in that way. And so you can do that in sessions. And then I also have my mentorship. And the mentorship is, so single sessions are amazing because we can get in there, we can do really powerful work. And a single session it's not like you're in the session, you do the work, and that's it. No, energy work, the way it works is the energy doesn't come back. The energy that we release doesn't come back. You leave a different person. And then there's an integration period too, where your body is integrating this energy being left behind, and then you being able to be more yourself. And it keeps going. You're never the same. And so you look back and you go, oh, I used to be really triggered by this thing over here, but now I'm not. So just know that. Just know that. And then but the mentorship is, if you want to take the single session, you want to take a single issue or 2 issues or whatever it is, or just whatever it is you're wanting to do. Maybe you're wanting to start up a new business. I keep using that because my first mentorship client, who was Mika on the last podcast episode, that's why she actually signed up for mentorship. She had been working with me for months. One of them was to have an empowering home birth because she had 2 health issues that were going to keep her from having a home birth. So we worked on that. She had a beautiful home birth because we cleared the energy around that. And she talks about that in the podcast. And then it moved to things within her relationship, wanting to have a better masculine, feminine role within her marital relationship. And it started improving everything with them and even with her kids. And then she signed up for the mentorship because she saw the power of that work and how her life changed. And then she went to the mentorship to start up her new business because there's fear of being seen in this new business, in the new business that she is wanting to bring forth, which has to do with her own intuitive abilities and her own abilities that she is learning through our mentorship that she has to clear energy herself. And so the mentorship is like, if you really want to tackle it from all the different angles, Akashic records, me teaching you to clear energy yourself. I mean, all sorts of things. Honestly, God, the universe, source leads the sessions. I don't, but you can get on my website and you can look at that too. Within that, I also do support sessions. So you have access to me via WhatsApp. And I do support sessions in between where we're not live in person, but I send you a message the day before and say, okay, so what's going on? I'm going to do the session tomorrow. Tell me what's happening. And I take whatever's happening with you and I bring that into the next support session. So you don't have to wait for the next one if something's bothering you. And that's something that is very valuable. I've had so many people tell me that the support sessions are just as valuable as the ones that are live. One other thing that's wanting to come in real quick is during a support session, even though I never promise big things like this, because I'm always just led to exactly what to do, meaning I tap in with God. I always ask for God's help. And whether you want to say source, universe, you can use whatever phrase you want, but I always ask for help. And so there was one person who was hearing voices, and I actually didn't know he was hearing voices. I was working on OCD, and in a support session, I did a certain kind of clearing, and all of a sudden I'm hearing from his wife, oh my gosh, he's been hearing voices for years. And for the last couple of days, he hasn't heard any voices. And then months later, the last time that I checked in with her, he still wasn't hearing voices. So this is the energy work. It does not make sense. But if it works, what does it fucking matter if it makes sense? Okay, that's it. I love you. Again, if you like this podcast, please rate and review. It would mean the world. It would also help other people find this podcast. And again, if you resonated with, if you liked it and there's someone that you feel like needs to hear the messages that are within this podcast or one of the other ones, please feel free to share. Again, it would mean the world. I love you. Thank you. If this episode spoke to you, please subscribe and leave a review so others can find this show too. Your support helps this community grow and brings more voices into the conversation. Plus, I would love to hear your biggest takeaway. Thank you so much.